Hello, everyone, and welcome to PODIUM Sportcast, your physical education and sports science podcast. Today is my own pleasure to interview our dear Florian Javelle. And today we will talk about the topic: what are the effects and mechanisms behind high-intensive interval training intervention at emotionally impulsive humans? But before we do that, dear Florian, could you tell us a little bit more about your scientific career, where you started and where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Ilya, for having me here. That's a real pleasure. So as you just said, my name is Florian Javelle, and I'm French, as you may hear. I am a biologist, even though I studied quite a lot of different things. I mean, my bachelor, master, and PhD are in the field of biology. However, I also have degree in sports science, data science, and actually even geology. I began my study at university in France, of course. So Saint-Étienne first, then Bordeaux. Then I traveled to New Zealand, where I studied at the University of Auckland. And from that, I finished my master in California at the University of California, Berkeley, where I met my first research mentor, I would say, Professor Sherry Johnson. She's a professor in psychology over there. And that was a great interaction and collaboration, because it really pushed me toward research and developed my interest toward research. And I got the chance to work on a topic that was actually close about what we are going to talk about today, something about tryptophan and impulsivity. I was the PI, but I was really small questionnaire-based study. So yeah, that all began like this. And then I came back in Europe. I got a German scholarship to do my own research in Germany. And I did my PhD here at the German Sport University at the Institute of Sports Medicine. And I'm now a postdoc in this same institute because I got my PhD last year.
And I was there, I remember, it was a really nice talk.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I'm just creating my my own group, and that's my research background, I would say.
Nice. I have notes here: France, New Zealand, US, and Germany. Well, quite nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for I think your scientific career shows for many of our listeners how science can be also diverse, because you are not talking about only being in the same country, in the same university, or different departments in the same university, but sometimes if you get interested by different topics, you have to travel abroad, and you have done this, so it's quite impressive.
Absolutely. Nice. And I think also that the going from topic to topic is not something bad. Actually, my interest toward research and toward the topic I'm into right now came only because I got some experience in different fields. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the people I met and the institute I visited, because it was a very fruitful learning process. And hopefully it will continue until the rest of our life.
And especially, I hope that you are happy to have met some Brazilian people. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah, you have said where you are right now. I think for our audience, it's quite clear that you are in Germany, in Cologne specifically. But beside our dear guests, in the second season, we have Elia Veda. I don't know why I want to say another name, but I just have my friend right now. Elia Veda, which is possibly a non-responder impulsivity person who has adapted to live in Brazil despite all the traffic jam and delay meetings, and is still alive and happy there. So Elia, how are you?
Good morning, Walter. I'm fine. I hope you guys are too. Very exciting for today's talk. I already had a quick read of Florian's work. It's very impressive, but we get into that.
Quite nice, because you also have a biological background, right, Elia?
Yes, I did start to study biology, did not finish my degree, but I have some background experience apart from studying biomedicine.
Nice, 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 nice. Florian, today we will talk about your scientific publication where you have the first authorship. But just for the records, we have in this season an episode with Nico Lehmann, with also a paper published in Scientific Reports from the Nature group. And today we will talk about a paper published in Brain Behavior Immunity, which is the top 16 of all scientific journals in psychiatry. This is really fat. I mean, I like because it's not a like perish. It's really good paper and good journal. The topic, the title of Florian's paper is it's not that long as I will say, but you have to be concentrated to do not forget. Okay, toward a neuroprotective shift. 8 weeks of high intensive interval training reduces the neurotoxic currine activity concurrently to impulsivity in emotionally impulsive humans, a randomized controlled trial. Before, yeah, thank you. Maybe I have done some mistakes, but I don't care. Okay, this is a funny question I have to do. Why so long title? Why would you... Yeah, I mean, yeah, please.
Why so long? I mean, it's precise. I think it's actually pretty concise if you remove the first part, which is toward a neuroprotective shift. But I think I liked to get this kind of wording at the beginning to get the attention of the reader.
No, I like the idea as well. I'm just making some jokes. What I really want to know is, well, when you read this paper, you see that many work, many hours, many, effort has been invested to make this study happen. But why is this? What is the story behind this paper? So where did you get the motivation or the idea to go further in trying to understand impulsivity and also related to our neurotoxic currine and the correlation? So what's the story behind this paper and the motivation to write it?
Yeah, so well, pretty large question. I would say that from a personal perspective, my interest toward impulsivity and tryptophan came very early because as I just explained in the previous question, that was my first research topic when I was in California and already in my master. So that's really the first thing on which I worked in research. So that came really early. Then the exercise part came a little bit later. But yeah, from a research perspective, maybe it's interesting for our audience to clarify three main points that are impulsivity, the tryptophan and tryptophan pathways, and exercise. And yeah, to maybe clarify that, I would begin by asking you one question. Do you have a simple explanation of what could be impulsivity, guys? What do you think? Do you a simple definition, something, or just a pretty brief explanation?
I have one idea, just because we have said something like traffic jam in Brazil. I think this impulsivity to do not lose a bus or to get a bus on time when you see you are running and the bus is also driving. Something like that you want to control for something that may happen and you cannot because of, I don't know, traffic jam or it's raining. I would say something related to this could be an explanation. I don't know. And Elia, do you have an idea?
I would say like a spontaneous response to a certain stimulus. So if I see something happening, it's the way I react immediately after without thinking too much.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty nice definition. One that I really like would be acting on a moment-to-moment basis without precognition or prior consideration of adverse repercussion. And that's the definition of Whiteside and colleague. And I think it clarifies pretty well what can be impulsivity. Yet it is a multi-dimensional construct, and lots of definition came with research on that topic over the years. And the different models also developed model to understand impulsivity. So my second question, which is a little bit weird, but would be, do you think impulsivity is good or bad? That's a weird question, I know, sorry.
I would say from a biologist's perspective, you always have this evolutionary aspect. So I would say impulsivity is something good. So if I can react to something new entering in my space, I have to take a decision quickly, because if not, maybe it's a predator, maybe it's something hurtful. So I should respond to the stimulus. So initially, I would say impulsivity is something good. In our modern society, I think impulsivity could be viewed as something like acting headless, not thinking too much, maybe with a slightly negative connotation.
This is quite a good definition. I would just associate this with some other interviews we had here in the second season with the decision-making process, which is like take the first. I would make some association with this, but I think the definition of Elia is quite good.
But considering still that the decision you take is not really well taught, that can be positive, negative, you really don't know, huh? Just to clarify. But okay, so from your perspective, more yes than no. Okay, so I'm going to give you a model that actually consider it this way. That's the model of Dickman and colleague, Professor Dickman, that consider impulsivity as being functional, so an asset that can help you to do something, a little bit like the way you described it, guys, and dysfunctional, that is actually a problem and will lead to, for example, risky behavior or problematic behavior. If we want to take an example in sport, the functional part will be an impulsive action to score a goal. That will be definitely functional part. In daily life, if you react to stress stimulus really impulsively, that may lead to problem of communication with some people, for example, and that will be the dysfunctional part. Yet there are like plenty of models, and the most clinically relevant and the most current one is the emotion-related impulsivity model. Impulsivity overall is linked to psychological disorder, problematic behavior, suicide, aggression, and basically to a bad handling of daily life challenges. But when we consider that within this emotion-related model, we realize that the magnitude of that link is much bigger for the emotion part. So the stimuli that are emotionally connotated will lead to, and that will lead to an impulsive reaction, would get much more, much stronger links with psychological disorder and all the other problems I previously mentioned. So that's the model we considered in this paper. And yeah, the second point, which is important to understand, is the tryptophan pathways. So tryptophan is an essential amino acid, meaning that it cannot be synthesized in your body, but you need to get it from food intake, right? And tryptophan can get transformed either to serotonin for a small part, to protein for a very small part, or to kynurenine. And what we know is that the tryptophan pathway, thus the tryptophan metabolites, are actually part of the whole panel of biomarkers existing for impulsivity, for impulsive behavior. Especially the serotonin, tryptophan itself, and the kynurenine part. Not really with the protein part. It's something different.
I'm following completely everything you are saying, but I'm just have one question. Where is metabolized? So does it happen just in I don't know, in your knee? Knee? I forgot the knee. What is knee again? A kidney.
Knee.
Okay. I was really thinking in the knee. Okay.
No, not in your knee.
Like, yeah, why not?
Okay, I have to cut this part in the future. I don't care. But what is metabolized? Because I think this is also important, because it seems that you get a food, but then you at the end have 3 outcomes. So where is metabolized to have these 3 outcomes?
Well, that will really depend. Like serotonin and tryptophan and kynurenine can exist at a different level. It can be circulating in blood. It can be within the brain. The first cells that will apprehend the tryptophan when it's ingested would be the enterochromaffin cells from the gut. And let's say that the first transformation would be at that level. But then, as I said, the tryptophan itself and its metabolite can either continue in blood or go within the central nervous system. That both are possible. But the quantity that stays in the gut and in the blood is much larger than the one that goes in the central nervous system. And so as I was saying, this transformation of tryptophan is much or it's largely overtaken by the transformation to kynurenine. It's approximately 95%. So it's really a huge part. And in our paper, we focused on that transformation. And when you arrive to kynurenine, you have, let's caricature 2 options. Either you go into the neuroprotective pathway or branch, or you go in the neurotoxic branch. They are called like this just because they have neuroprotective and neurotoxic metabolites in the end. It's a little bit caricaturing because it can depend on the type of disease or no disease that the patient may have. But in our case, for healthy patient or at-risk patient, that's like this: neuroprotective versus neurotoxic. And that's where exercise enters. Another important biomarker of impulsivity could be inflammation and inflammatory level within our blood. And inflammation pushed the transformation of tryptophan toward the neurotoxic direction. But when you do exercise and regular exercise, that will actually reduce inflammation and thus reduce the activity of the neurotoxic, and by other manner, activate the neuroprotective branch. Thus, exercise may be the link between the biological and psychological marker and actually the modulator of the biological marker to get a psychological reaction. And that's actually what we tried to do in that paper. We really tried to see if with exercise we could modify the biomarker of impulsivity, being inflammation and these 2 branches of the kynurenine pathway, and if it will also lead to a change in impulsivity.
Wow.
I found this part very impressive in your study. In regard to that, 8 weeks is a long time for a study to conduct a training program. But translating it to our actual everyday lives, this basically means that 2 months of high intensity interval training can already cause neuronal changes, changing tryptophan into this neuroprotective branch. So I think like 2 months of exercise is not too much to already see measurable differences.
Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of structural changes, which I assume in the long term may also have even more benefit. This is quite impressive. I was just wondering about the model you have said, the emotional part, because then we land in the subjective level where for everyone is different and the psychologists would love to talk. In your study, how was the control of the emotional status or the baseline status of the participants? How did you control for this? Because I think this must also be hard to control for for all the participants.
Yeah, so that we have recruited participants among a list of, well, considering a list of inclusion and exclusion criteria. And among this list, there was a minimum level of emotion-related impulsivity to have. So they were in between specific levels that was measured using the 3-factor impulsivity index. And thus they were relatively comparable in that regards. And additionally, we have measured the perceived level of self-efficacy and other we also used other questionnaires such as the PANAS and that would be not that bad already to see how they were responding across these 8 weeks. But to also bound on the comment of Elia, yeah, absolutely, it's not that long, but we also must consider that these were sedentary people, so people that do not exercise at all, and we basically train them 3 times a week for 8 weeks. So that's a really violent change in their lifestyle. And the let's say the end thing is that we still, so far I did not talk about the results, and the results are should get some consideration, because yes, we have shown that impulsivity, the emotional part and the non-emotional part, is reduced by doing HIIT, but it's actually also reduced by doing light training, light stretching, only for the emotional part. So there is something here. There is something, because it means that the physiological change triggered by HIIT are not the whole explanation. There is something else coming, at the least for the emotional part, because I mean, the light stretching group decreased impulsivity in a X level. The HIIT group also decreased with larger magnitude, but there were no difference between groups. So what I mean is, like, there was really something happening at the inflammation level, and in regards of these 2 kynurenine branches. But this is not the whole explanation. This is maybe also social interaction, feeling of self-efficacy that may have led to some positive change in the active control group. And I think it's really interesting, and hopefully something that we will investigate in the coming month, years. We'll see.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
that's very interesting. Just to make sure, the stretching group was also conducted in a group setting, so there were multiple people in the stretching exercise. So maybe it's also like a sense of community that can interact, like people that don't usually socialize too often.
Absolutely, absolutely. This social gathering has definitely possible influence. All the training were performed in groups going from 2 to 6 plus the trainer.
Okay, very interesting.
Very, very, very interesting.
And yeah, maybe just one last thing, because I realized that we didn't really went into the high intensity interval training part. So maybe just a short sum up. This is interval training, as it's called, of very intensive exercise. So between 85 and 95% of maximum heartbeat, interspread by period of active recovery that will be 60% of maximum heartbeat. And that would take approximately 35 minutes. Generally, you do a 4x4. And that's also the advantage of this kind of training, because it's pretty easy to put in your schedule. And the second thing, it's potentially the optimum training to create a change in the inflammatory pathway at the least.
I intensive interval training. Yeah, this is it has become a kind of hype. I would say last 5 years or 10 years, but I like your way of using this, willing to change the physiology and having a clear understanding how and which changes and the effect of the high intensive interval training may impact the physiology of the participants. I really like. But I have another question. You know, our audience, they clearly understand the difference between a post in social media, where you can post everything saying, well, walk 30 minutes and then we'll be happy, or say hello to everyone in the street and then your serotonin release will be higher than just staying home and watching Netflix. But what we do here is science. So we rely on some expert and expertises. Therefore, I want to know from your perspective, how was the review process? Because again, you have published in such renommé, I think it's a French word, journal. And how was the process to publish in such a journal? Just to differentiate from a post in social media, but also to share to our audience how hard it is to publish a scientific paper.
Yeah, I think it's actually a great question and a great thing to clarify for everyone. So to publish in a scientific journal, you basically send a version of your manuscript that you're happy with. The journal will have an internal board that will check if it's acceptable or not. At this level already, more than 60% of the journal are declined. And then the ones that are selected are sent to external reviewer. It can be 2, 3, 4. That depends on the journal and the level of expertise of the reviewer. And based on this review, you can have full grading in most of the case. The main one, and that happen once again most of the time, is decline. So yeah, you basically get the feedback from the reviewer, but you are not allowed to resubmit your paper in this journal. The second one is major revision that happen in some case, and that would be you get the comment from the reviewer, and you have the opportunity to change your manuscript according to these comments and to adapt that. Then you have minor revisions, so just some small comments from the reviewer, you have the possibility to integrate them and to resubmit to the journal, or finally, immediately accepted. This case almost never happened. At least to me, it never happened so far. I got minor revisions sometimes, but directly accepted, especially for a non-native English speaker. It's like super duper hardcore, and even more when you want to publish in a very high quality journal. I don't know about you, Walter, but never happened to me.
No, to be honest, never. Minor revisions, but I'm not sure. I think our audience has to check some of our former episodes, but I think someone has got accepted by the first. I don't know which episode was in the second season, but well, it belongs to the challenge now.
Yeah,
yes,
that's a great that's a great thing, and that's also completely depending on the level of on the quality of level of the journal. But yes. Yeah, to come back on our specific case, so at the beginning we were already pretty satisfied with the journal. We got great with the manuscript written. We got great expert. We got a good study, good method. So we were really happy with this. We submit that in this journal you mentioned, BBI. That we were all really fan of, and yeah, we got major revision, and we got the great surprise to see that the review process went super fast. I mean, super fast for our audience, it means 1 month and a half. And in comparison to plenty of other paper, at least in my field, that's really, really fast. I got some paper that got 1 year of review, and
we heard also 2 years in some other episodes.
My God, yeah, that's really frustrating, and you cannot do much about it. So yeah, went really fast, and the reviewer, we got 3. They were very supportive. They got some comments, but nothing that was really problematic. So we basically integrated all of them, and on the next round, they were satisfied with our correction, and they said, "Okay, now that's good. You can publish this. We are really supporting that paper and its quality." Nice. And just maybe for the small anecdote, the proofs were actually much worse. The proof took much longer and were I do not want to be mean with PBI and the proof process, but that was complicated, and sometimes they were integrating new mistakes, so that was difficult. Maybe for the audience, the proofs is the part where you just have stylized thing from the journal that are checked, sometimes a little bit of English, sometimes a little bit of punctuation, but nothing major. And yeah, basically when you really take care of doing your paper very well, and that you have someone at the really end of the process that integrate new mistake, ooh, that's annoying.
Yeah, this is quite hard, this proof part.
Still really grateful with the reviewing process of BBI, huh? That with them.
No, I think they do what actually sometimes due to the fact we are working this manuscript like for months, we forget some, as I have said, some commas, some punctuations, also some colors of the graphics that sometimes for the reader is not attractive, or you have some kind of similar colors like black and purple. So sometimes for the printing or for the online version, it doesn't work. No, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. I think this also endorse again for our audience how hard it is to publish a scientific paper, but how worthy is to hear from other experts how your research has been recognized among our peers. It's really nice. Florian, normally Elia and me, we get through our social medias like Instagram, Facebook, also via Spotify. Sometimes we get some private messages, some direct messages, and they always are, they go in the same direction. They say, well, Walter, Elia, thanks a lot. I really love to hear your podcast. I have learned a lot, but I really want to implement the results, or to transfer the results to my practice, to my reality. And we tried to do this in the first season, but now in the second season, I think it's not our task and our duty to do this. So I throw it back for you. Please don't do this in impulsive way. Think about, don't take the first. Well, if you could say for our audience, how would they transfer the results of your paper to the reality? How would you say this?
What is the applied result? Well, I think it come back a little bit to an answer I gave in 2 questions ago, saying that so first we have impulsivity, which is not a deterministic trait in regards to the link to psychological disorder and problematic behavior. It's a probabilistic. So what does it mean? It means that you have more chances to develop this kind of issue later. It doesn't mean that you will. That should be clear already. So that's why it gets tricky to give really an applied recommendation. But I'm still gonna try. So in our case, the goal was to go into the direction of in the clinical direction. So to transfer our work to people that are suffering from impulsivity disorder. And in this case, what we have shown is that with our intervention, both with the active and with the active control group and the experimental group, the HIIT group, we have a reduction of impulsivity. That is the core symptom of this psychological disorder. So that might be interesting to integrate both. The advantage of using it over the light stretching is that it really takes into account all factors evaluated of impulsivity. So the non-emotion related and the emotion related. And the magnitude, but I mean, this thing is specific to our population. The magnitude was higher in our specific case. Now, what is it if you do not have this kind of disorder of impulsivity related disorders that can be bipolar disorder, personality disorder, major depressive disorder? If you just feel that you are impulsive, you realize that you have impulsive reaction, as I said, that can lead also to risky behavior, to problem with dealing with daily life challenges.
Yeah.
Thus, it is probably a good idea to integrate such intervention in your daily life to regulate your behavior a little bit better, your impulsive behavior a little bit better. That will be my advice in regards of this applied part.
Great.
I'm trying to do not take too much risk into going in that direction.
Which may show the effect of HIIT in your own life. Quite good. Thanks for your explanation. But I was wondering something more applicable to a part of our audience, because we know that we have some physical education teachers, and some of them, they do work with people with special needs, either with ADHS or other intellectual or emotional disabilities. Do you see that there is a potential? I'm not saying that you have to claim for, but do you see a potential to trying to understand the effect of high intensive interval training in this population specifically? Do you know some scientific evidence regarding to this?
Scientific evidence, not that much. At the least in regards to the link to impulsivity, because that's relatively new as a topic. Yet impulsivity is a core symptom of ADHD, standing for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And yeah, of course, in that regard, that's a very interesting intervention to implement with this type of patient. What I can say again for this being based on the scientific evidence we got is that both intervention worked, and impulsivity HIIT got really an effect on all evaluated factor of impulsivity, which was not the case for light stretching. But what I feel, actually I can even add something which is scientifically proven. HIIT will have better effect also on other outcomes that are health related, not necessarily to impulsivity, but to physical shape, to well-being, etc. But now my gut feeling about that is also that potentially, if you would do a longer intervention, and this needs to be proven still, but you will really see that there is a difference even in the emotional part of impulsivity, and thus it might be even more meaningful in population that are suffering of an impulsivity related disorders. That's more gut feeling and potentially maybe new idea for studies. But yeah, that will be very interesting to increase the length of the intervention for sure, and to, as we said before, probably to add another control group that has not this social part.
Quite great. Yeah, thanks for the answer. I think this might be a a milestone for some of intervention, especially in schools with this population, which we know is kind of my interest as well as a person and scientist. Yes, yeah, thanks a lot for your explanation. We are heading to the end, and I have to make a question which I think I know the answer, but I have to do. Where can our audience find you in this big world? Because as we have said, you were in France, then New Zealand, California, Cologne. You were last week in France. Well, where can people find you in this big world?
Well, in person, I would say that I'm mostly in Germany at the moment, at the least. Online via LinkedIn, via ResearchGate, and via email. And yeah, feel free to post this information with the video. And yeah, I'll be pleased to answer any people that have interest in that specific topic.
Nice, nice. Yeah, just for our audience, we will add all these profiles from different medias and social medias from Florian in our description in our channel.
Unfortunately, yes. I'm not really active on, or I'm actually not even existent on, let's say, the more trendy social networks like Twitter or Instagram. I'm the old version of a researcher, the one of 5 years ago still.
I see. Also, if you see a Florian with this beautiful face saying that he's in Instagram, it's a fake.
Yeah, there are lots of them.
There are a lot of them. Great. Yes, thanks a lot for your explanation. I really like it. But I have maybe the final question. I don't know. Dear Elia, do we have some kind of surprise or message for our audience?
That's right, but I would like to remind our audience that we now launched our own website called PODIUMSportcast.com, where you can find all episodes in text, audio, and video, as well as our community consisting of our guests like Florian, where we have all the information that will also be in the description, where you can ask questions about certain episodes, suggest topics to be discussed in future. So if you want to take part of our community, head on that page and interact with us.
Yes, you are more than welcome to be part of our community in all our social medias at Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon. Did I forget something? I think I didn't. Yeah, anyway. But for those who are not and want to be part of our audience, we have a present for you as well. So I will make a question, but you only get the answer if you are part of it. So if you are part of our community. And the question is following. Dear Florian, imagine you got today an email from GFG saying, we are pleased to announce that you have you got a €1 million scholarship, no, it's not a scholarship, a grant. And you have to use this money in the next 5 years. So which scientific question you would love to answer?